Really close. Well, I think we're live. So this is the high school parent town hall meeting for Wilson Central School District. On my computer clock, I have 11:59. I'm going to wait to 12:01 and then get started. So if you haven't joined, give people a chance to join. All good? Awesome. So in my office, besides myself, I have our tech facilitator, Bonnie Simpson, and the district clerk, Jennifer Pavan. They're going to help assist facilitating this session. I am going to take about 15 minutes or so and start talking about briefly the sections of the reopening plan, and then start fielding questions. If you would like to ask a question, you can put the question in the box that says "say something," and then just hit the arrow. We'll manage and facilitate the questions as time goes through. I have a bunch of questions from other groups. This is my third parent meeting, and I have some other questions that may be frequently asked that I may help with this meeting. And like I said, I'm going to wait till about 12:01 and then get started. It's 12:01, so I'm going to get started. Again, this is the Wilson Central School District High School Parent Town Hall meeting. This is the first of 3 that I will have with the high school parents. The other 3 sessions are listed on the website. And also, I will, by saying this right now, I know Mrs. Simpson will send this out through email to all the parents. I have 3 sessions for each building, and then I have an evening session scheduled for the next week. So any parent that's not able to make the day ones will be able to do the evening session. So the rules of engagement are, I'm basically going to spend 15 minutes or so talking in general about the reopening plan. If I'm assuming it'll happen in this meeting like it did the other 2 that I had with the elementary and middle school. Questions will start coming up, and when those questions come up, I kind of take them in stride and stop and keep going and things like that. And it seems to be working out. In the end, the goal for all of this is to have our schools, Wilson Central School District, and the school community, parents, students, staff, teachers, all work together so schools can open up as normal fashion as possible, if we can figure out what normal is now. But that's sort of the goal for all of this. I do have a separate plan for the middle school and high school that I have for the elementary. I'll say that in general. While this is a high school meeting, I will mention some things about the elementary because there probably are some elementary parents on here. And if you have a question about an elementary, or you have a child in elementary, middle, and high, go ahead and ask the question. One of the frequently asked questions has been, why do we have 2 separate plans? And that has to do with the elementary. The parents in the community, through the survey, and also the teachers, indicated that they wanted to open up as live as possible with as many kids as possible. And while we do have a distance learning plan for the elementary, in which about 20% of the district is choosing that, the rest of the kids are going to be in person using dividers, these plastic dividers that we have that we're able to put on top of desks. That works for elementary because the dividers can't be moved. The medical director has indicated to us that you can't have the kids moving around and making contact with other kids with their dividers. Those dividers need to be stationary. So our elementary kids don't change classes. We can keep them in one spot and have people come to them. Middle school and high school classes, you can't do that because they change and mix. Like I said, both of these plans for high school and elementary and middle school are to begin the year with. How long depends on how long the restrictions are. As soon as I'm able to lift restrictions, I'll start bringing more kids back full time. And also, if we find a way to legitimately leave barrier stationary and can get them, I will, I'll make that available for more students. So that's the welcome, the rules of engagement. Through all of this past Tuesday, our Board of Education approved a new calendar, and that calendar is on the website. And the changes to the calendar are this. So for middle school and high school, there are now 3 superintendent conference days at the beginning of the year for teachers. There's one on September 2nd, Tuesday, September 8th, and Wednesday, September 9th are all superintendent's conference days, which means students will not return until Thursday the 10th. And I'll tell you how that's going to occur in a moment. And the reason for that change in the calendar really has to do with the fact that I have to get teachers up to speed on all the technology and the pieces that we've bought, both hardware, how do you go about with cameras, and doing things online with kids, and also the software that we have purchased in order to allow kids to interact with each other and also interact with the documents that teachers may be giving them to work with. Also to give them a chance to video themselves in order to be able to give directions and direct instruction for how to go about using a particular, how to go about learning a particular topic or directions on a project. So all of that is going to take time. So I needed to put 3 superintendent conference days in the beginning of the year. It still allows us to get the required 180 days in. And then on Thursday the 10th, cohort A will come in. And just cohort A, that's letters A through L. If your last name begins with letter A through L, or if you're in cohort A, they will come in and they will get the required training that they need. Not only the training that is involved in operating the equipment, but also in learning the technology tools that we're going to be used, but also the required training that we have to do for hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, social distancing in the building, wearing the masks. All those things are required to be done. So cohort A will come in on Thursday, and then cohort B will come in on Friday, the 11th of September. So the real first full rotation of this hybrid model, cohort A coming in on Monday, Tuesday, everybody remote on Wednesday, and cohort B coming in on Thursday, Friday. That will begin on the 14th of September. So all of that is in the student calendar. It will also be put up on the website, in our district calendar, and it will also be in the calendar that's mailed home as soon as it's printed and mailed home. So that's the opening day schedule, or the open days of school schedule for everyone. The next section of the reopening plan, that 40-page document, there's a couple of assumptions I made going into these. One is that you read the 40-page document. If you didn't, that's okay. But a lot of it, I'm just referring back to the document. So if you have a more specific question, please go ahead and ask it. And if you need to ask a question, as I said, there's a Wilson CSD Say Something at the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, and it should be in the right-hand corner of your screen. Just type your question in there and hit the arrow to send it. It will come up, and then Mrs. Pavan, the district clerk, will give me the question, and I'll try to answer it. So the next section of the program has to do with cleaning and sanitizing. Cleaning and sanitizing is one of the priorities of our building and one of the priorities of our school district. We're doing all of this CDC, the Center for Disease Control, recommendations as it relates to sanitizing and cleaning the building. That will be done every single evening. Throughout the day, the crews will be touching high-touch surfaces in the hallway, bathrooms, cafeteria, things like that. And then on Wednesday, we'll be going through the building for middle school and high school and doing a deep cleaning in between those cohorts. And that's what's required. Deep cleaning will occur at the elementary school every single evening. All crews, all hands on deck, making sure that that building is sanitized and cleaned prior to the next day. The middle school and high school will still be cleaning on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday. On Wednesday, we're going to just spend a little bit extra time knowing that there's a whole different group of students coming in for Thursday and Friday. There's a question, so.
What time do students have to be there on Thursday, and what entrance will they come in?
Okay, so great question. It is the regular start time. We are not changing start times as of right now. So it's whatever the start time for middle school and high school is. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what the start time of the middle school and high school because it's different than the elementary. So if you're not sure, I know it's in the calendar when that comes out. And also, if I don't answer any questions or if I don't have the answer to the question, we're either writing it down or you can call that 751-9399 number. I'm going to put that in the 751-9399 number. That's the number we've been using for all questions during this COVID time. It's a direct phone number to the district clerk, Mrs. Pavon, and she can direct that question to either the middle school or direct any question to me. In this case, the start time for middle school, that would go to the middle school. As for the entrances, in the morning time, we're still using the same entrances. We'll be using the same entrances to all of the buildings in the morning. Okay, so students will still go in. But once the doors are closed for the day, so as soon as all students are in, then the only entrances for visitors or late students or things like that are going to be through the main middle school door. Okay, so the buses line up along the middle school doorways. We will use the middle school doors to come in, the front entrance, because all the middle school usually come in, and then some stagger in throughout the other buildings. That's not going to be a problem. Once everybody's in, then we lock the doors and use one entrance, one entrance to the building. Will buses run on the 10th and the 11th? The answer to that is yes. They will be running bus routes on those days, bringing kids in. Another question?
Another question regarding the buses. Will buses be loading and unloading at the same time, or will they be staggered?
They will not be unloading and loading at the same time. I'm not sure. In the morning, they unload. And when we're loading the buses at home, so when the student pickup occurs, we will be loading the buses from back to front. So the first student on the bus will go to the back of the bus. Will sit by themselves, or if they have a sibling, they can sit with their sibling, or anyone else that lives in the household. We will social distance as much as possible, every other seat, and then bring the students in. Once the buses get here, we will unload the buses from front to back. And no, there will not be kids entering into a bus as other students are exiting the bus. And all of our plans in offices, cafeteria, loading and unloading, we do not have kids crossing each other. Our directionality in the hallways are all single file, against the wall, in one direction. And those are all being marked as we speak.
Quite a few questions.
Yep. Quite a few questions. That's okay.
Are the kids still going to have gym class?
Yes. We have not officially met with the gym teachers as a small group, but one of the suggestions we are not using lockers, whether it be gym lockers or lockers in the hallways. Students will carry their book bags with everything they have with them. That's to begin the school year. So I realize that as the weather gets colder, we're going to have coats and things like that, and we're going to have to adjust as time goes on. But the beginning of the school year, until we get the schedule going for the cleaning in the evening, and we are able to get that a little tighter, I don't want to add one more thing for the cleaners to have to clean, because if we use the lockers, every locker has to be opened, cleaned, and closed every single night. So until that guideline lessens or until we have a cleaning schedule that will allow it, we're not going to be using lockers, both in the hallways or lockers in the gym area. We haven't officially said this, but we're contemplating middle school, high school not having kids change for gym. Gym activities are going to be totally different than any gym activity. If it's outside, they can do things outside with they'll do outside with 12 foot of distance between them. Inside, it's going to be seated with 6 feet of distance, so it's not going to be the normal gym type classes. Next question.
A parent is asking that her son is going into ninth grade. She's not sure what the regular door is for the high school.
For buses, for students that are dropped off in walkers, most of the doors are open. Usually the kids enter the back zip lot or either the district door or the door at the end of where the art room is for music, or excuse me, the art room is for middle school. The bus students come in those doors that are closest to middle school. So there's 2 doors. One is the end of the art wing for the middle school. That's where the high school students usually come in.
Will there be a ninth grade new student orientation prior to September 10th?
Yes, there will be. There will be one for the middle school, there will be one for the high school. They'll be both virtual. And as of right now, we're contemplating, at least at the middle school, small group tours. And at the high school, the kids have already been in the building and we're not giving them lockers. So that's usually the purpose of the orientation. So along with the information, I know Mr. Galgovich is in the process of creating that virtual orientation. We can't bring the whole group in at once. Next question.
How does the schedule work on virtual learning days in the hybrid model?
Great question. Well, it's going to get me right into one of my sections, which is the continuity of learning. So let me just jump into that. And I have a list of things I want to cover. So I'm going to jump into the virtual learning or the learning plan, and then I'll go backwards. So there are 3 models. There's in-person, there's hybrid, and there's distance learning. At the middle school and high school, you had a choice of 2, either hybrid or distance. So whether you're at home or you're in school, students will get a schedule. Each individual teacher will be working on either synchronous or asynchronous instruction. And I'll explain. So synchronous instruction is where the student logs in from home while the class is going on and participates in the class just like the students in class participate in the class. My suggestion to the teachers is to have all the students log in, both the ones at home and the ones in school. This way the kids get to see each other on the screen. Just like if you've done any Zoom meetings, you'll see I call it the Hollywood squares, all of the little squares on the page. And it's important for the students to have that sense of community. The other option for teachers is to do some things asynchronous, which means they give an assignment and the assignment has a timeline and that assignment is done. When the assignment is done, that constitutes the student's attendance in the class. So the attendance in the class is either they're joining virtual and they're joining in or in an asynchronous completion of an assignment. One of the things I've asked each teacher to do, and I'll continue to ask them to do this, is if they're going to give an asynchronous lesson, they need to put a video with that lesson in order to allow the student to view the directions on how to do the assignment or the information they need to do the assignment. So I've asked each teacher to start doing that, which is one of the prior reasons, one of the things that I have, why I have 3 superintendent conference days at the beginning of the school year is to give them a head start on that. So that's the difference between synchronous and asynchronous instruction. So the answer is yes, your child will be logging in remotely while the class is going on. And also when they get the direct instruction in, if they're willing and able to continue working on their own, they can talk to the teacher, log out, and start working on the problem. are working on the assignment. The teachers will also have office hours. 12th period is a perfect example where the student can make contact by phone, email, or make a connection with the teacher using Google Hangout and Virtual In, and also get some assistance to that. I think that's the 3 learning models. We did not do in person at high school and middle school because the students move around and we do not have the ability to keep them 6 feet apart, moving around, and be able to give them mask breaks. That's why most of the districts around are doing the hybrid model, because it's mandated that we give kids a break using the mask. And I cannot give kids a break anywhere in this building where I can put 20 kids in any room 6 feet apart and allow them to take their masks off for a period of time. So in order to do that and get 6 feet apart in any classroom, I needed to split this every class in half, just about every class in half, in order to allow them to be 6 feet apart, to get to that magic number of 10 or 11. Some classrooms can have 10 in it, some can have 11, some can have 12, and that's what we're in the process of doing. Someone probably going to ask, when are we going to get schedules? And my real quick answer is when they're done, because that's what we're doing right now. Is we're once Friday occurs tomorrow, and people have made their choice on distance learning or not, transportation by the parent, or transportation by the district. We're going to take that information, compare it against our spreadsheet that has everybody on it, and then Monday and Tuesday start making phone calls to the parents that haven't done the survey or had said they would do distance, but now they're not. We had about 50% of the district, when we did the first survey, indicate they'd be willing to do distance learning. We're well under that. Excuse me, we had 50% of the district that said they'd be willing to transport, but we're well under that 50% now once they have to make that commitment. Also, like I said, about 20% of the population indicated that they wanted to do distance learning, but now that the model has come out and the explanations are happening, we're down to about 10%, 10 to 15% of the district. After each one of these meetings, you have the opportunity to go back to that form and either change your mind or leave it the way you chose it. So I think I answered that question. Do we have another question?
We've got a couple. Again, back to the busing.
Yep, back to busing.
When students arrive, will they exit the bus immediately?
No, not all students will, not at the same time, because that would put too many kids on the sidewalk at once. So we're working on 2 buses at a time. I can't tell you which 2. It's either going to be the first one, last one, or the first 2, and then the last 2. The high school principals and assistant principals at the high school at the middle school are working on what that plan is going to be. But no, they're not going to be leaving. In our plan, it says that under transportation, it says that we're going to be staggering the release of the students on the bus. I just don't know what that stagger is off the top of my head. So the drivers will hold on the bus, they'll stay in their seats. As soon as the bus is given permission, the doors will open and the students will be released from the bus. Another question?
The student in cohort A stays home due to symptoms of illness, but not necessarily COVID. Are they able to log into classes remotely on Monday and Tuesday?
Yes, absolutely. That gets to my student screening section. Also the health and safety starts wrapping in. So the health and safety section has a requirement for students to be screened prior to coming to school. So one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning, one of the goals is for all of us, parents, students, kids, teachers, to work together, because all of us have a part in it. And one of the parts that I'm asking parents to do is to make sure and ensure that their child has taken a COVID screen prior to getting on the bus or getting in the car to come to school. So that COVID screen is very similar to what we're using for our staff. Every one of our staff members, every administrator, even myself, every single morning has to take a COVID screen. And every student is going to have to do the same thing. They either need to take it themselves or have a parent take it. Somebody said to me, my child stays home and I'm off to work. What's going to happen there? I said, if your child's old enough to stay home, he's old enough to pick up a thermometer, take his temperature, and log in the screen. The screening tool is going to be on our website, which can be put on kids' phones. It can be put on parents' phone or the device that they're going to be using. They open up their Chromebook that they have at home, and they go to the web page for the COVID screen. It's already started. You just can't see it. It's on our end, so it's in the what we call the draft mode. So while it's in draft form, the district can see it. Once it's in live form, we'll be able to push it out so all the parents can see it. There will be a drop-down screen that says COVID screening for students. It's listed by grade level. So if your child's in 6th grade and has Mr. Baya for homeroom, you go 6th grade, Mr. Baya's name, and the COVID screen would come up. And the reason we did it that way was so Mr. Baya in the morning can watch his class while he's taking attendance and see who's taking the COVID screen. If the child forgets, we can send him down to the nurse, and the nurse will give him the screen. The question yesterday came up, which was a really good one. If my child's not going to school that day, does he need to take the COVID screen? So does the A kids need to take the COVID screen on the days the B kids are in? The answer is no. You only take the screen on the actual day that you're coming into school. If you're a distance learning student, you don't even ever have to take the screen unless you're coming to school for a day or a visit. We also have allowed that when sports are open and when we're allowed to do extracurricular activities, that those students that are distance learning students, they're still students in this district, just in cohort D, and they're registered students. They will be allowed to participate in sports. They'll be allowed to participate in extracurricular activities once those are allowed to open up. We are asking parents to transport them. We do not have the ability to go send buses out to pick up students for after-school activities and things like that. But they will be allowed to participate, and we will ask them to take a COVID screen when they come in. When we get to that, we either do that electronically or at every one of our entrances of the buildings, the main entrance of every building, the 3 entrances, the high school, middle school, and elementary school. There's a thermometer and there's a COVID screen for visitors and anyone deliveries and any student that may be coming into school that day that's in cohort D. So I hope that takes care of the student screening portion, but there are some questions.
There's a couple of questions still related to that.
Sure.
Will students be tested for COVID?
No, schools don't test. We can't. We're not allowed to. It's the health department. There's no guide. In fact, the guidance has been absolutely the opposite, that they're suggesting that to not screen kids and teachers prior to returning to school. And one of the requirements that over the last weekend, I think on Sunday, we had governor gave a press conference, and there's 3 things that he asked districts to do. One is to take that continuity of learning plan, those 3 models, what you're actually doing, and pull them out of the plan so parents don't have to go and dig through 40 pages to see that. That's in the process of being done, and that will be put on the website by tomorrow. But also to put the testing and the contact tracing protocol each district is doing. And we were quickly got an email from the Department of Health and New York State Department of Health saying, guys, we've talked to the governor. You do not do contact tracing and testing. You are not the professionals that handle that. We are. So our local Department of Health created a protocol for that. It's basically when a student comes down with signs and symptoms, or if they say yes to one of the symptoms on the screen, the nurse will make contact with the parent, direct the parent to go to their healthcare provider or immediate care, and let them diagnose and determine the next steps. And the next step may be a COVID test, but they're clear to tell us that I can't force any parent to take a test. I can just tell parents that when your child is out, you need to go see the healthcare provider, and I need a note to return for that child to return to school. And anytime a student is out, even if they're in cohort A, cohort B, they still can continue to work and log into their classes remotely. And next question?
Another health-related question.
Okay, another health-related.
Does the health screening form account for a student with allergies or similar symptoms?
No, it doesn't. So that's an awesome question. I'm glad somebody asked it. I'm not sure if they did on the other ones, but I'll try and remember to make it down. It does not have anything to do with allergies. So what I say, I'm an allergy sufferer. You're going to hear me clear my throat, sniffle, drink a lot of water during the day because right now the allergies are kicking in pretty good. So there's no, but your child and you know your child. If it's an allergy related incident that doesn't need to be seen, I've been in school every single day with this little sniffle I have. I know it's allergies. I take my allergy medicine in the morning. I'm stuffy in the morning. I clear up usually by 10, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Sometimes it takes all day. It's just the nature of allergy season. But no, it does not account for it. So I don't mark yes if I know it's an allergy clearing the throat. I don't mark yes if I know if I'm sniffling because I have the allergies. But I know the difference, and as parents, you know your children know the difference between if it's allergies or if it's really something that they should be staying home for. And remember, if you're keeping your child home and marking yes, your child needs to go see the doctor or a healthcare professional somewhere, immediate care, and get cleared to come back. And that's right from the health department, not necessarily from school. Next question.
A couple viewers are asking about BOCES.
BOCES questions. Awesome.
Will BOCES still be every day, and will transportation be provided?
Yes to the first question. BOCES will be provided every single day. We're being told that BOCES is not getting a distance learning option. They are doing in person every single day. So that means whether you're a distance person or if you're hybrid, on the days that you're not in school, you can still go to BOCES. The district will provide transportation. That transportation is going to be from school to BOCES and back to school. We cannot send bus runs out to individual communities to pick up kids in between two bus runs. The bus runs go almost immediately back to each other. So if your child has morning BOCES, he can ride the bus in and then go to BOCES, because that one leaves just about automatically. But in the afternoon, if they're a senior coming back from BOCES, someone's going to have to come get them from school, because we're not driving kids home from BOCES, because the next run for BOCES is the juniors get on and then go to BOCES. So there's no time, and I don't have extra buses of any kind, according to our bus company. They have no extra buses to take kids back home in between bus runs. So as a parent, if your child's going to BOCES, you're either going to have to transport them. There's three options. One, you can have your child come to school and be dropped off and picked up from school at midday. Or you can drive the student right to BOCES, allow you to drop off there morning and afternoon, depending on where you live. Part of our district's closer to BOCES than here. And then the third option is BOCES is opening it up for students to be able to drive. We're going to ask for parent permission and school district permission for kids to be able to drive to BOCES and park their car in their lot. Provide some other spaces. I think they're working in conjunction with the college to use the lot that's right next to BOCES. So they're going to sort of do all that together, and they're going to run BOCES every day. So those are the three options. All I know is I'm told BOCES is in person all day or every day, and they're not doing a distance learning model.
Will students have hallway lockers for their coats and books?
No, I answered that question already. We are not doing lockers at all, both in the locker room and in the hallways for the beginning of the school year. I don't know how long that's going to go. It might be just September, and there's a reason for it. So we have to clean the building every single night. We're required to follow a cleaning protocol, and part of that cleaning protocol not only is to deep clean high-touch surfaces, but to clean all surfaces. In a classroom, in the hallways, if the students use the locker every day, we have to open that locker, clean inside and out. Until I know how long it's going to take to clean the entire building and sanitize the entire building, I'm pulling the lockers out of the mix right now. Now, I realize that in the winter, we're going to have to figure out an option for coats, but we'll figure out an option for coats. Don't worry by that time. Maybe by that time, I'll know that the sanitizing the building is not going to take as long as we thought it's going to take, or as we keep going, it gets a little quicker as time goes on. And then we'll be able to add in the lockers at the mix. But at least for the month of September, we're not doing any lockers. We're not doing any lockers. There's no sports right now for September, and there's no after-school activities for the immediate future.
Will the class live streams also be recorded for students not in school to watch at a later time in case of spotty internet?
I've asked that. That's a great question. The person wanted to know if the classes are going to be streamed afterwards. It's one of the things I'll reiterate to the teachers, but it works the best if students, because they have to make sure the students. Well, let me just do it this way. If I was doing the teaching, and this is how I presented to the teachers, this is how I would do it. I'd kind of flip it around. I would do the direct instruction. So every lesson is basically broken up into 3 sections. Direct instruction, which includes giving directions, usually 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of the lesson. Then there's some guided practice, and then there's some independent practice. So that direct instruction piece, I'm asking them to video it, especially at the middle school and high school, because kids are going to need that at home the next day, doing their homework, things like that. So I've asked them to video it. Now, whether they're going to video it live or they're going to video it before the lesson, I'm going to leave that entirely up to them. They may video it before the lesson, and when everybody logs in, they're watching that video and then starting the work for the day. Or they may be asked to watch it at a different time, and then when you're logging in, you're doing the work and getting the guided practice at that point. So I'm hoping that makes sense. So yes, anytime the direct instruction is going on or direction given, I'm asking teachers, and I'll continue to ask teachers to video that. So when a student is working independently or is at home doing the work, they're able to go back to that and refer to it as part of their content. Another question?
What is the latest time that a student could be picked up from school?
After 12th period. So off the top of my head, I don't know when 12th period ends or when the school day ends for the middle school. I don't have that with me right now. I will, Mrs. Pavon's marking it down, and I'll make sure for the next session I'll have that time frame. It's whatever the end of 12th period is, so it's 3 o'clock, 12:30, or excuse me, 2:30, 3 o'clock. I think it's somewhere around 3 o'clock off the top of my head. That's when 12th period ends. But I'll have that for you at the next one. That's a great question. If I don't have it for the next one, that gives me an opportunity to remind everyone that if I don't answer your question, or if I say, hey, listen, I'll have that for you next time, and I forget to bring it back to you next time, call that 751-9399 number that I put it at the top of the screen, and please use that as a reference. I just saw somebody pop up about 12th period. How's it going to be handled? It'll be handled for the kids that are in A court on Monday and Tuesday. They can go in person, and the students at home, both distance learning and the students that are on remote learning that day or in B cohort, they'll be able to either call in, email in, because every room has a phone now. They can either call in, they can email in a question, or request an invite to Zoom in during that time, or Zoom in is best way, remote in. That's probably the best way to say it. And there will be a bus run after 12th period.
A couple viewers are asking if every absence would require a doctor's note.
Every absence require a doctor's note. Every absence related to illness will require a doctor's note. Yes. Other question?
I think we're caught up.
11th period ends at 2:27, and 12th period ends at 3:08. Thank you, Stoltz.
One more question came through.
Yep. Other question?
What is the virtual platform going to be? Google Meet, Zoom, Microsoft Teams?
Great question. It is. We are a 100% Google district, so all instruction will occur through Google platform. So we're using Google Meet, Google Hangout, Google Classroom, all those all those options. We also have a program called Kami that's in the works, Kami, and I encourage you to Google some videos on it. Kami is a program that allows students, teachers to interact with paper documents. Because one of the things that I've asked the staff to do is to really rethink their supply lists and really rethink their handing out material. Textbooks going back and forth are going to be really heavy. I really don't want textbooks going back and forth. If they really rely on a textbook, there should be a set in the classroom, and the child should be able to take one home, so they don't have to bring it back and forth. They're carrying everything in a book bag with them. You add 2-3 textbooks, and that's not going to be a good for anyone. So the Chromebook should be their text series, and anything they need to read, it can be scanned into this program called Kami. It allows a student to be able to type on a document, highlight, summarize, write with a stylus, because our Chromebooks are touch screens, write with a stylus on it. So the class supply list is going to be a lot shorter. And I told them they're going to have to be a lot shorter. Now, that being said, if we shorten or make smaller the list, I also don't think it's unwielding to ask a parent to purchase a stylus and a headphone. Most kids have headphones. Many of them have the ones without the cords. We're working on having them be able to use with their Chromebook. The stylus is one about $11-12. So if we're shortening down the list, a stylus I don't think is an unreasonable request. Our tech facilitator is in the process of doing some research on which ones work the best. And once they have that, we'll email that to parents and say, hey, listen, listen, here's the stylus that we're recommending to use, and you can get it on Amazon, or you can get it at this place or this location. That being said, you don't need a stylus to start the school year. You don't need a stylus to run Kami. You can do that with a typing with text box, and also highlighting tool and the mouse. Another question?
Are students going to be instructed on all that was missed since March of this year?
Well, it's going to be difficult for middle school and high school because it's a whole different set of curriculum. Middle school, it's a little easier. High school, it's not, because it's a whole separate curriculum. It's a whole different course. It's course dependent. We have talked to the teachers about, in the elementary and the middle school, we've talked to the teachers about beginning as much as possible where they left off. It's going to be difficult for certain subjects because it's just so course dependent. Next question. Oh, we're all caught up. Excellent. Let me go back to my list, make sure I'm catching everything. So we talked about transportation. We talked about health and safety to a point. I didn't get into the nitty gritty. So part of those first 3 days, there's going to be a lot of instruction on hand hygiene, proper respiratory hygiene. We have signage throughout the building on floors and we have 3 hallways in the high school, 3 stairwells in the high school, which are going to be up stairwells, and 3 that are going to be down stairwells, because we need to minimize and we need to keep kids from crossing each other. The hallways, because we have a smaller amount of kids in the building, it's going to be half the amount of students minus the distance learning kids. So let's say a third of the building will be here every single day. We're going to be asking kids to walk single file on the right hand, 6 feet social distance apart. That's really what the beginning of the school year is going to be about. Every student must wear a mask to enter. If you don't wear a mask, don't come to school. If you're not wanting to wear a mask, that's why you have a distance learning option. If you're coming to school, you need to wear a mask properly, above the nose, below the chin, and wear it properly. And it has to be an appropriate mask for school. If a student forgets his mask, wears an inappropriate mask, or one that doesn't stay up, they'll be given a mask to wear. If they don't wear the mask, you'll be getting a phone call. And they're going to go down to the nurse's office, and they're going to go home. Because the guidelines clearly say 6 feet apart, wearing a mask. 6 feet apart, you can do mask breaks. So in the classroom, because we have a third of the kids in the classroom, as long as we keep it 10 and under, which is what almost all the classes are going to be, they can take mask breaks, just like you would in a restaurant. They come in, they sit down, they take their mask off, they get up, they put their mask on. Every kid's going to be asked and be taught proper hand hygiene. Every student, when they walk into a classroom, mounted on every single wall is 1 or 2 hand sanitizer stations. There's also individual bottles on the teacher's desk, and we have some for individual students too to put on their desk if that's what the teacher wants to have in their classroom. The student comes in, puts hand sanitizer in their hands, they wash their hands, they go sit down. That allows them to touch the textbook or do whatever material or work. When they're all done, they go back over to the hand sanitizer, they put hand sanitizer in their hand, they wash their hand, and they go out. A couple questions I saw popped up around them. I'll take those.
Are you allowing more time in between classes to get from room to room?
At this point, we haven't really thought about it. If it becomes a problem, I'm sure we'll look into it. But again, there's a third of the amount of students that are going to be in school. And the school's not any bigger. The only thing would be is maybe some of the directional stuff with going up this hall, but we have an up and down stairs for every hallway, so that it's not going to add a large amount of time.
And the second question was pretty much similar. If there'd be any leniency for class tardiness due to hallway stairway restrictions when a child needs to reconfigure physically route to the next room.
Yeah, it's like I said, we have it configured so, outside my office is the up stairwell. The one at the other end down by the English room is the down stairwell. So then the one over here at the other end of the building is up, and the one at the other end of the building over here is up. So it's configured so they shouldn't have to go a ton, maybe a few steps out of their way, but we're not doing. That's one of the reasons we didn't do directional hallways, because we were talking about directional stairways and directional hallways, and the problem with that is, after we did the first walk, it was too far distance to allow us to have a student. So if you had a class in the health room near the auditorium and you had to go upstairs, a directional, if this hallway was going to the right and upstairs was going to the left, you have to go all the way this way to go up and then go back this way. That would have taken the students out of the way. But there should not be, again, 8 to 10 kids in a room. They should be able to get hand sanitizer and walk out and start wiping it while they're walking out, and get to where they're going to go in the minutes that we are allowing now. I don't see where that's going to be a huge problem, but again, we'll reevaluate after the first couple of days of school.
How is lunch working?
Good. I have 3 weeks to figure that out. How's that for an answer? Great question. So we have to social distance in lunch. There's no way of getting around it. What I mean by that is that they have to be 6 feet apart. The number of kids in the cafeteria are going to decrease drastically. So every lunchroom is going to have about a third of the students in it. So we need to create more spaces for kids to eat. So we have used a couple extra spaces, so the kids would go in line like they would, social distancing 6 feet apart. In the middle school line and the high school line, they're separated. There will be markers on the floor, just like you see at Walmart or any other places, to social distance people. Students will go along and get their lunches. The lunches will be handed to them. They will not touch a thing. They will be in a carry-out type of a container. The food will be put in by the food service worker, who will have the proper PPE on. When the lunch is finished, the student will be handed the lunch. They'll go over to the cashier and deal with the cashier. If the student is a distance learn or in hybrid mode, your parent or someone in the family can pick up the lunch. There'll be one location. There'll be a reservation taken, and that lunch will be prepared and waiting for you when you pull up to the door. Some will bring lunch out. The lunches that we're providing starting in September cost whatever you have paid in the past. And what I mean by that is if you had free or reduced or full pay, you still would be free, reduced, or full pay. There is no provision for giving out free lunches coming up in the new school year. That window from state ed has closed. The last talk, we were using the back part of the high school cafeteria as the pickup place for lunches. And I haven't heard that that's changed. So there's a door there that when you pull up, there'll be a way for you to either buzz the door, or call into the number that will be on the door, and therefore you'll be able to get your lunch brought out to you. The cafeteria in the middle school is a problem for two reasons. One, it has circular tables. And two, it's not that big. So we're pulling the tables out and putting desks in the middle school cafeteria. The high school cafeteria, the tables are long. We can sit one kid on either end of the table and still be 6 foot apart. The middle school tables aren't going to allow us to do that, so we're putting desks in the cafeteria. And then we have an overflow cafeteria when we fill that up. All of that is while we're speaking. That's why schedules haven't come out yet. We have wait till everybody determines if they're distance learning, pull them out of the schedule in the mix, meaning not the schedule, out of the cafeteria mix, mark them as cohort D. I have some students in our 12-1 program that are going to be in cohort C, like the elementary. They're coming every day. And then I have the cohort A and B, which is the half of the remaining students. So those have to be identified in the schedule. And then once those are identified in the schedule, we also have to determine how many we're going to have for each lunch period. So I don't know if I mentioned this because I forget from one meeting to the next, but schedules are going to be delayed this year. I don't even have an idea when they're going to be out. It's dependent on when we're able to get the cohorts all set up. We also have a couple of retirements last moment, and we are just trying to get the schedule together. Any more questions?
Couple. Would you need a doctor's note for something like a migraine?
For an illness, yes. It's illness. That's a headache. It's one of the signs. It's one of the signs and symptoms. Maybe the doctor will write one for a general purpose, but I don't know. But it is one of the signs and symptoms on the COVID list, which is anytime you mark yes and stay home for one of those yeses, you'll be directed to get a note to return. And the student may be out an extra day or two and have to remote in on that day.
Can you go over the policy for bathroom use?
Sure. Right now, it's one student in the bathroom at a time, and there'll be spots outside to wait to go in. We really don't have very many bathrooms that more than one student gets into anyways, but it'll be one student at a time. There are some guidelines for the square footage that we haven't looked at the bathroom square footage, so if the square footage allows more than one student in the bathroom at a time, then more than one student will be allowed in the bathroom. But as of right now, there's signs on the door that say one person in the bathroom at a time.
We have a question. Has the teaching staff been trained to handle streaming of their lessons or classes and to accommodate students that are learning online?
We're in the process of doing that. It's been most of the month of August. We've provided training for teachers, and then the part of the reason why we held back the opening of school by added 2 other superintendent conference days in there instead of the usual one is to provide that training. The streaming material, how to use the cameras, how to use the equipment, how to use the clear touch panel along with the computer, show them how to present so they can still be talking, but what they're presenting is coming through to the students so they can see it on their screen. So all of that's in the process, yes. Are they 100% up to speed with it? Nope. But we still have time to go. Are there going to be glitches? Yes, just like yesterday's middle school meeting was supposed to start at 11. Set up the camera, ready to go. I sent out a quick message to the middle school parents saying, sorry, we're having technical difficulties both with YouTube and also with our equipment. started at 12 instead of 11. And that's going to happen. There's going to be glitches. There's going to be classes that are scheduled. And all of a sudden, they get an assignment with a video or assignment. Please do this. I can't seem to get something on it. Technology is awesome, but it's only as good as until it doesn't work.
Is there a protocol if someone in the building tests positive for COVID?
So that's one of the 3 things that I have to put up on the website by this Friday, besides the testing protocol that I talked about, which for ours basically says that you're going to be directed to your healthcare physician, and your healthcare physician determines whether or not you need a COVID test, and then we go from there. And then they release you back to school. The other one is contact tracing protocol. So if a teacher, administrator, student tests positive in school, it doesn't close school. They begin the contact tracing. Nowhere in there does it say 1 positive test, 2 positive tests, close school. It closes school to remote, which at some point it may happen, is a number of factors. One is the governor gave that percentage, as if your hospitalization rate goes up over whatever that percent is. And off the top of my head, I'm not going to give it out because I don't remember it right now, and we're well below it. And that's why we're going to be able to open in the hybrid model. But if we raise above that, everybody's remote. You probably have seen 2 districts already that are totally remote already, Maryvale and West Seneca. The governor may come down and say that before school starts, guys, you're all remote. I don't know what he's going to do. So that being said, we're preparing for an all remote option. At some point, we're going to be going remote. If we have not even a COVID case, if we have a situation in which the number of teachers and the number of students are out up to a certain number, we may have to go remote for a day or 2 until things pass through. We may be told we don't do contact tracing. That's the health department. They have the professionals to do that. We don't isolate. We don't quarantine. That's the health department. They give the direction. They may tell us we're quarantined. The whole building's quarantined for 14 days. They may say the whole school class is quarantined for 14 days. So I can't give you an exact answer. I cannot give out names. I can't say, hey, this particular person has COVID. You will know because the school, if your student is in contact with a parent, teacher, or student that tested positive, we get a phone call from the Department of Health. We assist the Department of Health with everyone that child was in contact or that teacher was in contact that day. So I hope that makes sense. So anyone that they had contact that day, then the Department of Health makes notification to each one of those people that were in contact with that person. Now I know that the superintendents in Niagara County have talked a little bit about sending a general letter out to the entire district. Hey, there's been a positive case. Here's the general information. But I don't know. I'm not allowed to notify individual people, and I'm not allowed to notify the district who was positive. All I can say is the people that came in contact with that person will be notified through the Department of Health. Hope I answered the question.
Kind of piggybacking on that.
Yep.
If someone does test positive, can a parent make the decision whether or not to send their child on the following day?
I'm not quite getting that. Let me just play that one out for a second. So if somebody in the district, like I said, you have the choice to send your child or not send the child. The governor made that ultimately clear. You have the choice to send them or not send them to school. Now, whether you're going to do it on a day by day basis, again, I'm your child's parent during the day, and I'm in charge of them during the day. You're ultimately responsible for them. And if you believe that it's safe to keep them home, who am I to say that they're not? If they're logging in remotely and doing their work, they're present. That's the new world we live in. So I guess the answer is you're ultimately the person that gets to make that decision. Now, if the kid's remote 3 or 4 days, you're going to get a phone call at some point, say everything okay. But the staying home and coming to school, the experience is going to be a little bit different because you're going to get it. School works the best when kids and teachers are in school. If we all start with that, there are going to be reasons why kids aren't going to be coming to school. As soon as November hits and it's cold and flu season, this place is going to be a ghost town because kids get sick, and when kids get sick, they have to stay home. Teachers get sick, they have to stay home. It's just the way it's going to operate for the foreseeable future. Another question? We're all caught up? Wow, awesome. Okay, and we're saving the chats too. So the chats from the 3 sessions, we've been saving them. This particular session is when we're all over. It takes a few hours because for some reason when I talk and it takes up a lot of time, it takes YouTube a moment to get it up. So sometime this evening, this will be back on the website. So if anybody wants to either view it again or forgot the answer, they can look it up again. But we're saving the chats and creating a frequently asked questions chart. I'm hoping by next week we can have that out, at least up on the website, and email that out to parents to help them answer questions. But we're in the process of tabulating them and getting a good answer, make sure it's a consistent answer so our teachers can have them, our parents can have them, and our administrators can have them. So some of the what if questions or some of the, hey, what happens when this happens, they'll be in writing. Let me just take a look at my list. So we talked about food service, how that was going to happen, which was one of my questions. I talked about continuity of learning, which is the 3 teaching models. I talked about transportation, a little bit about health and safety. If anybody has any more questions about health and safety, please don't hesitate. I just saw another question pop up, and I'll get to that in a moment. I talked about cleaning and sanitizing. I didn't talk about this. So part of our protocol for cleaning and sanitizing is Mr. Harmon, our facilities director, broke up the buildings into sections, and he's trained his staff with the CDC guidelines, both by showing them and also giving them in writing what they need to do to clean and sanitize high-touch surfaces and then every surface in their area. Each cleaner is given a map of that area that they have to do, and every day when they finish, they sign off that they have properly cleaned and sanitized that area following CDC guidelines, and that gives them and us the accountability that was done, and it also gives us the accountability when the health department says, hey, listen, was this room cleaned on this particular day? And we can say, yes, it was cleaned on that particular day. So that's the health and safety. I talked about food service, continuity of learning, transportation. I may get back and touch a little bit on health and safety in a moment again. Before I get the technology, I'll take the next question.
Will there still be band lessons? And if there is, how is it going to work?
Great question. We're still in the procedural part of that. There were band lessons and chorus lessons even when we shut down. They were virtual. At least I know there were chorus lessons. I'm not sure if Mr. Verdone did band lessons during the time he was when we closed down, but I know he's been talking about doing virtual band lessons. Band course will happen. There'll just be half the amount of kids, and then the kids at home will be virtually during the actual ensemble portion. And then yes, he'll have individual lessons, and I'll let him reach out to those individual parents and kids to get information out for that. Is there another question?
I think you may have covered this. Will synchronous teaching sessions be recorded so that students can review them later while doing homework, or if they need help?
Probably not the whole thing. And I did answer this before, but it's a really good question. What we're looking to do is have the teachers videotape the direct instruction and the directions to what they're supposed to work on. We're not going to videotape the entire lesson. Maybe the presentation, portion of it and things like that. In most cases, I would think that we put on, send out beforehand, but I can't speak for every teacher. But I did tell them, if anything they send out, they need to put out in any paper they send out, they need to put a video clip with the directions on it. So I said the best way to do that is video your direct instruction along with your, which is the beginning part of the synchronous learning part. And this way kids can refer to it when they go home. Other questions?
How are science labs going to work, especially when they're hands-on?
Well, if you're going backwards, I'll replay what I said about when kids come into the classroom, they need to wash their hands, sanitize their hands. The guidance says from state ed and from the CDC and the Department of Health, any commonly touched sub items. So if this water bottle is a commonly touched item between kids, kids of different periods are going to touch this, then I need to sanitize my hands before walking into the room or as I'm walking in the room. Then I can touch this because now my hands are sanitized and the kids before are sanitized. And when I leave, I sanitize my hands. That's the guidance for commonly touched items. So those classrooms that have hands-on type of component to them, they are going to be rooms that will have 2 of those hand sanitizers. Now the classrooms that are not, or the kids that are being remote learning or distance learning, labs will either be done on the day they're in. The distance learning students, there's going to have to be a virtual option for all those labs. I have asked all science teachers to look into virtual options for those labs. Many of the guidelines for science do require or do allow for virtual labs. If you're going into college, you do very little lab work in a lab now. It's all in the virtual mode. Same with any of the health medical fields and things like that. They do all virtual operations, they do virtual science experiments and things like that. So state ed does allow some of those things. It's whether or not all of them are available. So there's going to have to be some modifications to the curriculum. Any other questions, or do we get to the last one? Well, good. I'll go to technology. So each student is going to get a Chromebook. There's been 3 days that Chromebook's been picked up. If you did not pick up your Chromebook, you can call the 751-9399 and pick up the Chromebook. And there was a great question yesterday that I'm glad it was asked. My child has a laptop at home. Does he need to get a Chromebook? Yes, he does. All work for school. Synchronous work, logging into Google Classroom, logging into Google Meet, Google Hangout, whatever program we're using, Hammy, any work they're doing has to be done with a district laptop because of the code of conduct. I have to guarantee as part of this plan that your child doesn't have any material in their possession that is inappropriate. So it's not that I don't trust kids, it's not that I don't trust parents, but I know kids and they research, especially high school students. And they may be researching something that's inappropriate. I have to guarantee to the state that all students are not having access to inappropriate material. So that's anything to do with weapons, anything to do with ammunition, anything to do with pornographic material. None of that can be in the student's possession. So if they're using their own, they have the ability to do that and show it on the screen. So I have our district computer, that computer, when they log in to that Chromebook, it's still filtered through the district's filter. And all of that stuff gets blocked as soon as they research anything close to weapons and pornographic material. It blocks them. It doesn't allow them to go through. That's not the same for home computers. So you can picture this kid using a home computer, logging on, finding an inappropriate picture, presenting that inappropriate picture to the whole class. That'll be a discipline matter for the student, but now I just exposed the entire class to a piece of inappropriate material when I didn't need to. That's why all kids need to use their district computer when doing their work, and their district all of the invites will be sent to their district email. All the students have email addresses. Any other questions come up? Got another one?
Will the substitute teachers be trained on all the same procedures that teachers have been trained on?
Haven't got there yet. I don't even know how we're going to use substitute teachers, Mrs. Hoyt, as of right now. Just like the students can be remoting in from home, teacher can be remoting in from home to that particular day. We may be calling a remote day for that class if the teacher is out. Don't have a 100% handle on what we're going to do with substitutes. We've also talked about probably there's going to be a need for substitutes. So yes, we would have them come in to be trained. But right now I'm focused on reopening the hybrid plan and getting the students all the technology in place. And these parent communications, 9 of them that I have to do between the 3 buildings plus the evening one. And then we'll start thinking about what we're going to do for substitutes. The answer to that is yes. Just like I have to train them in the other things, all the other pieces of information, I would have to train them on this technology. But if a teacher's out, the instruction still can be done. It can be done asynchronously with a video and an activity left. And then it's a matter of just supervising the class. So, good question. I just don't quite know yet. Another one?
How will you handle the possibility of various contraband items and/or weapons being inside the student backpacks inside the classrooms?
Well, any item, just like we would now, or prior to COVID, any student coming into the building, once they step through the door, in parentis loci happens, which means the legal term is in place of the parent. That means every administrator, including myself, are in place of the parent. So if we become aware, we take the backpack, we open the backpack up, and we search the backpack, and the student gets suspended if it's inappropriate item. So it doesn't change. We have kids that carry backpacks now into school. The difference is they're going to be carrying them into classes. So we have the right to go on the backpacks. We have the right to go on the lockers. If we suspect that there's something, if we got information that there's something in there, we have the right to go in there and keep the rest of the students and staff safe. We're all caught up? Okay. If you have anything else, please put it in. I briefly talked about athletics. It's on hold at least till 21st, 23rd, somewhere around there. I forgot what the Athletic Association has right now. But if you're paying attention to colleges, I would suspect that many of the high schools very soon, as we get closer to that September date, they're going to be all pushed off until to January, and I don't know how that's going to run yet. Extracurricular activities, same thing, at least for the month of September, and I'm saying till further notice, until we can get pushed past most of this mess and the guidelines start reducing, and we will I'll start allowing those extracurricular activities. But until then, those are on hold. I started talking about technology. So besides the Chromebook, if you didn't pick up the Chromebook, call that 751-9399 number. Or if you were under the impression that your child could use theirs at home, please call the 751-9399 number, and we'll direct you to technology, and you'll be able to set up time to pick up your child's Chromebook. If it's an evening time, if you're working during the day and you need an evening time, we'll figure something out. There are days when there are evening nights. There are nights when we have people here. Besides that, internet issues. We did do a survey, and about 96% of the parents said we have appropriate internet. But that other 4% makes up about 50 families. So if 50 families do not have internet, I have to provide that opportunity for them to be able to have internet. We went out and purchased some hotspots, which will be great for those families that have cell towers near them or close to them. That will work. We also are projecting Wi-Fi from our district. So we have 3 Wi-Fi repeaters will be on the buildings, one at the middle school, one at the high school, and one at the elementary school, with the hopes of projecting Wi-Fi out. Someone told me one of the parks has it also. I'm not sure if Clemens at Park has one now. It's an external Wi-Fi that allows people to log into it and use it. It will be on our network also, so we'll go blocking inappropriate material. So now we may get down to, of the 50, probably 40 of them have cell towers. Now we're dealing with 10 people, and we'll just have to work that out individually with those 10 parents, how we're going to get their work to them, how we're going to get all the appropriate material. We're also aware that some families have more than one student that's going to school, and their Wi-Fi may not be capable of handling both of them on at the same time, or 3 of them, 4 of them on at the same time. So we may have to pass out a hotspot for some families in order to do that also. Well, caught up with questions? Great. We talked about BOCES and transportation to and from BOCES. We talked about technology, food service. I think unless we have any final questions, I know Mrs. Pavan's been typing some answers in there too. If she knows the answer also, unless there's any more questions, I'm going to be signing off here in a moment. I'm going to go on to my next, my reopening meeting that I have coming up. There are 2 more high school sessions. Those dates are on the high school, or on the district webpage. There's also 2 more middle school, 2 more elementary, and then I did 1 entire district evening event. They're going to be similar. I'm going to just be firing questions. I'll use the frequently asked question page as part of my guide for those. But if anybody has any final questions, I'll take it. If not, I will sign off. After this, if you have any individual questions, please either call the building principal or that 751-9399 number, which is a direct line to Mrs. Pavan, and she will direct your question to the right person. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it, and talk to you soon.